Calling you on WPFW.
Yes, greetings. This is Brother Mwariama. I think I spoke with you at the gathering,
Yes,
celebration of for Baba Oduno. Again,
yes.
just the initial celebration, because we will be having a follow up. Um, every time I think about Baba Oduno, particularly as you were talking, Ambrose, about Howard University, Baba Oduno was many things and many people in many circles, and but he was a very significant staple at Howard University. And there were a lot of people who I had met. I'm actually, working on a book on Howard University, and as I spoke to a lot of people who were a part of the university, many of them had Oduno stories that they would share with me. And there's one in particular, one I wanted to read from a brother named Paul Lee, who was a student at Howard, who was in our own history club, and he later went on to write a lot of works and become an editor and journalist and famed historian dealing with Malcolm X. But he wrote a letter to Baba Oduno shortly before he passed that actually had Baba Oduno in tears, and I actually wanted to read some of that if I could.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
I remember Paul.
Oh, good. Yeah. This is his letter. Dear Baba Oduno, I just spoke with our dear brother Mwariama Kamau and told him something that I'm not sure if I ever told you, namely that you will always be by far my greatest teacher. When I joined our own history club in Washington, D.C. around 1980-81, I had only a vague idea of what constituted scholarship and almost none at all of what constituted black scholarship. I was initially shocked and outraged by your approach, which was firm, demanding, uncompromising, even unforgiving. I don't recall you ever using humor or gentle encouragement, as many teachers do. Instead, you were usually a grim and fearsome taskmaster. However, because I was particularly interested in learning about Garveyism, which I was first introduced by my brother Sunni, my friend H.R. Lewis, and the venerable Dr. Detroit Garveyite John Charles Lamptey, I stuck with you through all of this, and am eternally grateful I did. From you, I learned the following things, which I pray that I'm passing on to my students, although I'm keenly aware that I could never be the teacher that you are. Point one, critical thinking and argumentation. Point two, documenting one's assertions. You never tolerated any of us expressing opinions that weren't supported by evidence. As you might recall, you would promptly send the offender straight to Howard University's unsurpassed Founders Library to find documentation to back up their claims. Point three, examining history from different, often conflicting perspectives to arrive at a more well-rounded perspective. Given the fact that you're an ardent Garveyite, I was surprised when you made us study what the detractors, including integrationists and communists of the Honorable Marcus Garvey and his movement, had to say about them. That not only demonstrated your confidence in the man and his movement, but also in your students' ability to form a more nuanced understanding and appreciation. Point four, questioning or interrogating, a term favored by eggheads, the backgrounds, assumptions, and words of scholars. It was you who taught me to ask whether, whenever I could consider a history book, journal, article, thesis, or dissertation, who is this person? What is their philosophy, ideology, and political and religious leaning? Where were they educated or trained? What else have they written? What do they propose to prove? Indeed, one of the things that I love most about your classes was listening to and learning from your usually withering critiques, books, articles, and lectures, few of which would survive unscathed. While some of my classmates felt that you were being cruel, I never thought that. To me, you were being rigorous. For decades later, I tell my students, rigor is my watchword. I got that from you. Finally, true Garveyite that you are, you taught me how to see our history and culture, as Mr. Garvey taught us, through a black lens. You often quoted the seminal insight from Mr. Garvey's famous African fundamentalism. Quote, we must inspire a literature and promulgate a doctrine of our own without any apologies to the powers that be. The right is ours and God's. That contrary sentiment and cross opinions go to the winds. Opposition to race independence is the weapon of the enemy to defeat the hopes of an unfortunate people. We are entitled to our own opinions and not obligated to or bound by the opinions of others. End quote. Because of you and Mr. Garvey, I am and will remain a black scholar. While it's fine if others might learn from my efforts, my work, such as it is for us, first, last, and always. To the extent that my scholarship has any probity, most of this is due to your wise and generous tutelage of a raw young punk student who, when you met me, was close to falling off the edge of the earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for giving me the keys, and just as importantly for teaching me how to forge my own keys to better prosecute the work that I love, and for firing my enduring enthusiasm with your own, which is truly deathless. He ends that. But as a quick P.S., he added, if I could add a little bit more. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, he put in there, P.S. I also told Brother Mwariama that I saw a side of you that most of my classmates didn't, namely your humility. After you grounded me in both Garveyism and the historic tradition of black nationalism, that it's a part, yeah. I was able to recognize elements of Garveyism in the thought and practice of Malcolm X that previous scholars had missed. When I brought these to your attention, you surprised me by your reaction. Firstly, you carefully studied when I showed you. Engrossed without saying a word, this initially caused me some fright because I wasn't sure if what I brought you would pass muster. Secondly, once you satisfied yourself that it was valid, you softly said, "Thank you, Brother Paul. I hadn't seen that." Baba Oduno, that meant more to me than a suitcase of gold bunion, because without you, I wouldn't have had recognized these examples of ideological symmetry. You taught me that Malcolm X was a stone-cold Garveyite, not simply because his parents were, but also because he shared their conviction about African redemption, universal black emancipation. And anyway, in the final sentence, how could I ever fully thank you for all that you've done for me and my work? Sadly, I don't believe that I ever could. Please forgive me.
I can see why Oduno would have been in tears, because Paul. So we were all there around the same time. Brother Paul Lee, who we knew he was a scholar even then. There was my two good friends, Chris Cathcart and Menotti Jenkins, but we learned also from Howard Newell. I don't know if you remember Howard Newell, who was the Houston president, Howard University Student Association president before us, and he was with Gerald Dugan, who changed his name to Zweletu Mpiaki. These were some strong, knowledgeable brothers. It is how I first joined the AAPRP and the study groups to learn what I learned. This all flows. This all flows in a line, and Oduno was in that line, and so we always sat at his feet, and Paul too, because Paul was strong too. So I want to thank you for reading that letter. It means a lot in this whole honoring of Brother Oduno.
Yes, sir. And I will certainly, as we prepare for the 40th Day Ascension, keep you informed if you would like members of the community know, because it's important. We have, we celebrate Baba in all his various areas of interest. Certainly the agricultural. We need certainly the spiritual. Certainly the Garveyites and all the different communities that he embraced and had affinity for, and were a vital part of. So we want to give everybody an opportunity to share in the celebration, and we'll keep you posted. And I thank you, for letting me share that little piece with you. I wanted to actually say a whole lot more at the celebration, but as master of ceremony, I wanted to be yielding and not resume on my time. That I should say. But
it's fine, brother. I'm glad that you did. It was a rich letter, and knowing, having known Paul, it was right on time. It was right on time.